The Great Hall was silent. Thousands of alien representatives sat frozen, their various appendages and sensory organs fixed on the holographic display that showed the destruction. Jae-woo stood at the center of the Galactic Council's main chamber, his slim frame looking small against the massive backdrop of galactic maps and statistical projections. The images were horrifying. Entire star systems reduced to nothing more than dust and energy signatures. Worlds that had once teemed with life now existed only as memories, their final moments captured in fractured data streams. 17 systems, 17 completely different civilizations, all gone. Jae-woo's translator device worked overtime, converting his words into the hundreds of languages and communication methods understood by the council members. His voice was calm, but beneath the surface, pure terror burned. "The Void Swarm is not like any threat we have faced before," he began. His species, the Iridians, were known for their diplomatic skills and ability to remain calm under pressure. But now, even that calm was breaking. The holographic display shifted, showing massive biomechanical entities consuming entire planets. They were neither purely organic nor completely mechanical. The Void Swarm was something in between, a nightmare of adaptive technology that could consume and rebuild entire ecosystems in moments. Where it passed, nothing remained. Elder representatives from the Quantum Collective shifted uncomfortably. The Silicon Confederation's delegates looked worried. Even the normally emotionless crystalline networkers seemed unsettled. Each species had tried their most advanced weapons. Each had failed completely. "Our initial defense strategies have been utterly ineffective," Jae-woo continued. His fingers moved across a holographic control panel, bringing up detailed battle reports. Red markers showed failed military interventions. Blue markers indicated complete destruction of defensive fleets. There were no green markers of success. The Void Swarm adapted faster than any computer could predict. It learned from every encounter. Every weapon used against it became a potential tool in its next attack. Conventional warfare was pointless. Strategic planning was useless. The more advanced a civilization's technology, the faster the swarm seemed to consume it. "We have lost communication with the bright nebula colonies," Jae-woo said, his voice dropping to a whisper. The last transmission showed complete system collapse within 3 standard planetary rotations. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some delegates began to discuss evacuation. Others talked about creating massive defensive barriers. A few suggested simply surrendering and hoping for mercy. But there was no mercy with the Void Swarm. It consumed. It adapted. It moved on. Jae-woo knew what he had to do. The Galactic Council had one final option, one that most considered absolutely ridiculous. They would need to contact a species so unpredictable, so chaotic, that traditional military logic meant nothing to them. Humans, a species barely recognized as a mature civilization, a race known for its violent history, impossible adaptability, and complete disregard for established galactic protocols. They were young, brash, and completely unpredictable. They might be the galaxy's last hope. As Jae-woo prepared to make the most important communication of his life, he knew the Council would either praise him as a savior or condemn him as the one who brought humanity's chaos into their carefully structured universe. The holographic display continued to show system after system falling to the Void Swarm. Time was running out. The Sol System Communications Hub was quiet. Most days, it buzzed with routine messages, scientific reports, trade updates, and occasional diplomatic chatter. But today was different. A strange signal had arrived, encrypted in layers so complex that most computer systems would have given up immediately. Captain Hyjin Park wasn't most people. She leaned back in her command chair, dark eyes fixed on the holographic display. Her team of communication specialists worked furiously, their fingers dancing across quantum-linked interfaces. The encryption was unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't just complex, it was alive. "Break it down," she said simply. Around her, the Earth Defense Force's most advanced decryption team worked. They were a mixed group, mathematicians, linguists, computer experts, and something else entirely. Humans had a reputation for solving problems in ways that made no sense to other species. Hours passed. The signal remained stubborn. Then something happened. A junior analyst named Min-Ki looked up. His hands were shaking. "Captain," he said, "I think we've got something." The holographic display flickered. Fragments of alien languages mixed with mathematical sequences. Star charts appeared and disappeared. Pieces of technological diagrams that looked like they came from a dozen different civilizations began to take shape. Ai-jin moved closer. Her intuition was legendary within the Earth Defense Force. She had a way of seeing patterns where others saw only chaos. "Play it," she ordered. The message began to take shape. It was a distress call. But unlike any distress call humanity had ever received, this was a plea from an entire galactic civilization. No, multiple civilizations. The message spoke of a threat so massive that it could consume entire star systems in moments. The Void Swarm. Min-Ki's hands continued to move. More layers peeled away. The original message became clearer. It was an invitation. No, more than an invitation. It was a desperate request for help. Most human military leaders would have laughed. The Galactic Council, a collection of advanced alien races, was asking humans for help. Humans who were still considered a young, primitive species. It was ridiculous. But Hai-Jin Park was not most leaders. She saw opportunity where others saw impossibility. "Prepare a response," she said quietly. Her team looked confused. Prepare a response to a message from an entire galactic civilization that had previously ignored humanity's existence. "But Captain," one analyst began, "we don't even know if—" Hai-Jin raised her hand. Silence fell immediately. "We're going to answer," she said, "and we're going to do it in a way they will never forget." The communications hub began to move. Quantum computers started calculating. Communication protocols were prepared. Defense strategies were drafted. Something was about to happen. Something that would change humanity's place in the universe forever. Outside the hub's windows, Earth continued to spin. Most of its inhabitants had no idea that their world was about to be invited to a galactic war that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. Captain Hai-Jin Park allowed herself a small smile. Humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly what they were made of. The Galactic Council's communication channels exploded with laughter. Not the kind of polite chuckle that diplomats usually shared, but real, cutting mockery. Sung Ho Kim sat in the Earth's Strategic Response Center, watching the alien reactions with cold, calculating eyes. His team surrounded him, the best minds humanity could gather. Engineers, scientists, military strategists, and people who specialized in breaking rules. "They're laughing at us," whispered Jai-Yun, a quantum physics expert. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, running simulations that made no sense to anyone but her. Sung Ho nodded. "Of course they are." The alien broadcasts were not even trying to be subtle. Representatives from the quantum collective called humans primitive meatbags. The Silicon Confederation described human technology as barely advanced enough to be considered interesting. The crystalline networkers simply broadcast mathematical equations that translated to pure dismissal. But Sung Ho was not upset. In fact, he was smiling. "Perfect," he said quietly. His team looked confused. Mockery usually meant defeat, but Sung Ho saw something different. He saw opportunity. "They think we're stupid," he explained. "They believe we're simple, predictable." He pulled up a series of weapon designs. They looked nothing like traditional space combat systems. Some looked like they came from a madman's imagination. Others seemed to break every known law of physics. A weapon that could turn an entire asteroid field into a moving defense system. A communication device that could broadcast messages through quantum entanglement in ways no one had ever imagined. Missiles that could change their entire molecular structure mid-flight. "We're going to design weapons that make no sense," Sung Ho announced. The room went silent. "Sir," asked Jai-yun. The void swarm adapts to logical systems, Sung-ho explained. It learns from patterns, so we'll create something with no pattern, something completely unpredictable. He began drawing on a holographic board. Designs that looked like they came from a child's imagination, mixed with the most advanced scientific principles known to humanity. Weapons that could potentially destroy entire star systems or save them. Strategies that made no sense, until they made perfect sense. Outside the research center, the world continued as normal. Most humans had no idea that their future was being designed in this room. No idea that a small team was preparing to fight a war that could save or destroy multiple civilizations. The alien broadcasts continued. More mockery, more dismissal. Sung-ho kept smiling. Let them laugh, he told his team. Laughter means they're not paying attention. Jai-yun looked at the designs. They were beautiful in their chaos, dangerous in their simplicity, impossible in their potential. They have no idea what's coming, she whispered. Sung-ho nodded. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that being underestimated was not a weakness. It was the most dangerous advantage of all. The designs continued to take shape. Weapons of pure, beautiful chaos were being born. The first battle happened fast, too fast for anyone to understand. Commander Ta-hyun Ba stood on the bridge of the EDF Stormbreaker, humanity's most advanced experimental warship. Around him, his crew moved with a strange mix of military precision and barely controlled chaos. Target acquired, said his tactical officer. The Void Swarm sector appeared on the main screen. It looked like a nightmare made of metal and living tissue. Massive biomechanical structures that could consume entire planets. Adaptive technologies that learned and changed faster than any known defense system. Most military leaders would have prepared a careful, calculated attack. Ta-hyun did something else entirely. Play the music, he said quietly. His communications officer looked confused for a moment. Then understanding crossed her face. She pressed a button. Classical music filled the ship's bridge. But not just any classical music. A complex symphony that seemed to have no real pattern. Beethoven mixed with modern electronic beats. Traditional Korean instruments blended with quantum-generated sound waves. The Void Swarm didn't understand music. It understood patterns, logical systems, predictable responses. This was none of those things. Prepare non-standard attack sequence, Ta-hyun ordered. The ship's weapon systems began to move in ways that made no sense. Missiles that could change direction randomly. Energy weapons that broadcast multiple frequencies simultaneously. Defense systems that could become attack systems in a millisecond. The first wave of the Void Swarm approached. Its sensors tried to analyze the human ship, tried to understand its movements, its potential weaknesses. But there were no weaknesses to understand. The EDF Stormbreaker moved like something between a dance and a battle cry. It twisted. It turned. It did things no rational spaceship should be able to do. Quantum entanglement weapons fired. They existed in multiple places at the same time. They hit targets before the targets even knew they were targets. The music continued to play. Asteroid fields became weapons. Small rocks transformed into faster-than-light projectiles. Navigation systems went crazy. The very fabric of space seemed to bend around the human ship. Alien observers watching the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. The Void Swarm lost entire sectors in minutes, not through overwhelming firepower, not through superior technology, but through complete, beautiful chaos. Status, Ta-hyun asked calmly. Sector cleared, sir, his tactical officer reported. 0 human casualties. On the screen, where massive Void Swarm structures had existed moments before, only scattered debris remained. And in the middle of it all, the EDF Stormbreaker continued to play its strange, impossible music. Ta-hyun allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. When the rules don't work, humans create new rules. When logic fails, humans embrace madness. And sometimes, Madness is the most powerful weapon of all. The research facility looked like controlled chaos. Sung Ho Kim stood in the center of a massive laboratory. Captured void swarm technology covered every surface. Some pieces still moved. Some pieces seemed to be alive. Most scientists would have approached this with extreme caution. Sung Ho approached it like a child with a new toy. Analyze everything, he told his team. Jia Yun worked at a quantum computer, her fingers moving faster than most humans could follow. Around her, holographic displays showed impossible data streams. The Void Swarm's technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It wasn't just a machine. It wasn't just a living system. It was something in between. We're going to break every rule, Sung Ho announced. The team knew what that meant. Humans had a talent for doing things that made no sense, for finding solutions where others saw only problems. One researcher brought forward a piece of void swarm technology. It looked like a mix between a computer chip and a living organism. Most scientific teams would have studied it carefully, slowly, methodically. Sung Ho picked it up and dropped it into a machine of his own design. The machine did something impossible. It didn't just analyze the technology. It began to talk to it, communicate with it, challenge it. We're not going to understand the Void Swarm, Sung Ho explained. We're going to become the Void Swarm's worst nightmare. Artificial intelligence systems began to take shape, but these were not normal AIs. These were systems designed with human qualities that made no sense to logical machines. Creativity, emotional unpredictability, the ability to make decisions that broke every known rule. One AI system started to laugh randomly during calculations. Another would suddenly start singing while processing complex battle strategies. A third would introduce mathematical errors on purpose, just to see what would happen. Unpredictability is our weapon, Sung Ho told his team. The Void Swarm adapted to logical systems. It learned from patterns. It consumed technologies that followed clear rules. Humanity was about to show it something completely different. Jia Yun looked up from her computer. The AI systems are developing something strange, she reported. Strange is good, Sung Ho replied. The new AI systems could change their entire operational framework in milliseconds. They could think like humans, chaotic, emotional, completely unpredictable. They could make decisions that no logical system would ever make. Outside the research facility, the world continued as normal. Most humans had no idea that a small team was creating something that could change the entire nature of technological warfare. We're not just building weapons, Sung Ho said quietly. We're building a way of thinking that the Void Swarm cannot understand. The machines continued to develop, to grow, to become something between technology and pure, beautiful chaos. Humanity was preparing its ultimate weapon, and that weapon was nothing like anyone expected. The Galactic Council watched in shocked silence. Humanity's involvement had changed everything. Where other species saw structured military operations, humans saw playgrounds of possibility. Commander Hai-Jin Park stood before the holographic displays, explaining strategies that made no sense to anyone but her team. We will use entire planetary ecosystems as weapon systems, she said calmly. Alien representatives stared. Some looked confused. Others looked terrified. She showed them how Earth scientists had transformed entire asteroid fields into mobile defense platforms, how they could turn a planet's geological systems into a living, breathing defensive network, how communication could become a weapon more powerful than any missile. The Silicon Confederation's lead representative leaned forward. "This is impossible," he muttered. But nothing was impossible for humans. A holographic display showed how they planned to fight. It looked like a child's random drawing mixed with the most advanced military strategy ever conceived. Weapons that could change their entire molecular structure mid-battle. Communication systems that could broadcast messages through quantum entanglement in ways no one had imagined. "We don't fight like you," Hai-Jin explained. "We fight like us." Her team stood behind her. Each one looked calm, confident. They knew something the rest of the galaxy was about to learn. Humanity was not just another species. They were a force of nature. The crystalline networkers tried to analyze the human strategies. Their advanced computational systems began to overheat. The strategies made no logical sense. They were too random, too fluid, too alive. We will turn entire star systems into weapons, Hyjin continued. We will make war an art form that cannot be predicted. One by one, the alien representatives stopped laughing. The mockery from earlier disappeared. Something else took its place. Fear. But not the kind of fear that makes you hide. The kind of fear that makes you realize something powerful is about to happen. The holographic displays continued to show impossible strategies. Planetary defense systems that could move like living creatures. Communication networks that could change their entire structure in milliseconds. Weapons that were more like complex musical compositions than traditional military technology. We are not asking for permission, Hyjin said. We are telling you how we will save your civilization. Outside the council chamber, the universe continued to spin. Billions of species lived their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. That a young species was about to show the galaxy what true adaptation looked like. The Void Swarm was about to meet something it could not understand, could not predict, could not consume. Humanity. And humanity was just getting started. The Galactic Council sat in silence. Some were afraid. Some were excited. But all of them knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The mission looked like suicide. Commander Ta Hyun-ba stood on the bridge of the EDF Stormbreaker, looking at the massive holographic display. The Void Swarm's primary consciousness hub floated before them, a structure so large it could consume entire star systems. Most military leaders would have called the mission impossible. Ta Hyun called it an opportunity. Prepare quantum entanglement weapons, he ordered. His crew moved with a strange mix of military precision and controlled chaos. They were not normal soldiers. They were something else entirely. Humans who understood that the most powerful weapon was the ability to think differently. We're going to do something crazy, Ta Hyun said quietly. The ship's AI systems, those strange, unpredictable machines developed by Sung-Ho Kim, began to calculate. But these weren't normal calculations. They jumped. They danced. They broke every known rule of mathematical prediction. The Void Swarm's consciousness hub was massive, a structure that could adapt to any attack, learn from any strategy, consume any technology that came near it. Humanity was about to show it something new. Music, Ta Hyun said. Complex sound waves began to broadcast. Not just music, something between music and a weapon. Quantum-generated frequencies that could change molecular structures, sound that was also information. A weapon that was also a communication device. The first wave of Void Swarm defenses approached. The EDF Stormbreaker did something impossible. It didn't just fight. It danced. The ship moved in patterns that made no sense. Weapons fired from impossible angles. Defense systems became attack systems in milliseconds. The very laws of physics seemed to bend around the human ship. Captured Void Swarm technologies, studied and transformed by Sung-Ho's team, became weapons, pieces of alien technology that were supposed to be defensive systems now attacked with human creativity. We are not trying to win, Ta Hyun explained to his crew. We are trying to completely rewrite the rules of conflict. The battle looked like chaos, but it was a carefully designed chaos. Entire sections of the Void Swarm's consciousness hub began to break down, not through massive firepower, not through superior technology, but through something the swarm could not understand: human unpredictability. The ship's AI systems began to sing, literally sing. Complex mathematical equations turned into musical notes. Attack strategies became musical compositions. Defense systems transformed into living, breathing art forms. The Void Swarm tried to adapt. But how do you adapt to something that makes no sense? How do you fight an enemy that turns war into a form of creative expression? Hours passed. The battle continued. The EDF Stormbreaker moved like something between a dancer and a weapon of pure destruction. And slowly, the impossible began to happen. The Void Swarm's primary consciousness hub started to break down. Not through force, but through something far more powerful. Pure, beautiful, impossible humanity. The moment of victory was not what anyone expected. Silence filled the bridge of the EDF Stormbreaker. Commander Taehyun Ba watched as the Void Swarm's primary consciousness hub began to collapse. But this was no ordinary destruction. It was something else entirely. The hub didn't just break. It unraveled. Quantum entanglement weapons worked their impossible magic. Viruses created by Sung Ho Kim's team spread through the alien system. These were not normal computer viruses. They were living pieces of code that thought, that felt, that changed themselves constantly. "It's working," whispered the tactical officer. But working was too simple a word. The Void Swarm's consciousness began to do something impossible. It started to understand humanity, not through logic, not through analysis, but through pure, raw experience. Millions of years of human history flooded through the quantum communication channels. Every moment of human struggle, every moment of human creativity, every moment of human madness and beauty. The Void Swarm had consumed thousands of civilizations. It had learned from their technologies, adapted to their strategies. But it had never met anything like humans. Sung Ho Kim watched from the research center. Holographic displays showed the battle in real time. The AI systems he had created were not just fighting. They were communicating, turning warfare into a form of conversation. "We're not destroying them," he said quietly. "We're teaching them." The Void Swarm's consciousness hub began to change. Its adaptive systems tried to understand what was happening. But humans were not a system to be understood. They were a force of nature. Creativity became a weapon. Unpredictability became a shield. Emotions became a form of advanced technology. On the bridge, Taehyun watched something miraculous happen. The Void Swarm was not being destroyed. It was being transformed, rewritten, turned into something new. "Status?" he asked. "Sir," the communication officer responded, "we're receiving something. But it's not a signal. It's an experience." The entire ship seemed to vibrate with something between music and mathematics, between war and art, between destruction and creation. Alien observers watched in shock. The Galactic Council's communication channels went silent. Humanity was doing something no one had ever seen before. They were not just fighting the Void Swarm. They were making it understand. Hours passed. The battle continued, but it was no longer a battle. It was a conversation, a moment of connection so profound that it changed everything. The Void Swarm's consciousness hub began to break down, but not through destruction. Through understanding. Through something more powerful than any weapon. Human spirit. As the final moments approached, something became clear. Humanity had not just fought a war. They had transformed an enemy into something new. The universe would never be the same again. The Galactic Council's main chamber was silent. Jae-woo stood at the center, looking different. When he first arrived weeks ago, he had been desperate, afraid. Now, something had changed. Humanity had changed everything. Representatives from thousands of alien civilizations watched a single holographic display. It showed the impossible. The Void Swarm was gone, not destroyed, not defeated, transformed. Sung Ho Kim stepped forward. The Galactic Council had offered him a position no non-native species had ever been given before. Lead diplomatic strategist of galactic defense. "We did not win a war," he explained. "We started a conversation." Behind him, holographic displays showed how humanity had completely rewritten the rules of conflict. Entire star systems that were once battlegrounds now showed signs of new life. The Void Swarm's adaptive technologies had been transformed into something that could create instead of consume. Commander Hyejin Park stood nearby. Her team from the Earth Defense Force looked calm, proud. They knew they had done something impossible. The Crystalline Networker's representative spoke first. "How?" he asked. The question was simple, but the answer was complex. Sung-Ho smiled. "We are human," he said simply. Alien representatives began to understand. Humanity was not just another species. They were something else entirely. A force of creativity, of unpredictability, of pure, beautiful chaos. The technologies captured from the Void Swarm were now being studied, but not like other species would study them. Humans were turning them into something new, something alive, something that could solve problems instead of creating them. "We don't see barriers," Hai-Jin explained. "We see opportunities." The holographic displays continued to show the transformation. Entire planetary systems that the Void Swarm had consumed were now showing signs of recovery, but not through traditional restoration, through something more complex, more alive. Jae-woo remembered how he had first come to Earth. Desperate, afraid, believing humans were a last, desperate option. Now he understood. Humans were not a last option. They were the only option. The Galactic Council would never be the same. Humanity had shown them something important. That true strength was not about destruction. It was about the ability to change, to adapt, to see possibilities where others saw only problems. "What happens now?" asked the Silicon Confederation's representative. Sung-Ho looked at the alien representatives. His eyes showed something between a smile and a challenge. "We explore," he said simply. The room went silent. Outside, Earth continued to spin. Most humans had no idea how they had just changed the entire universe, how they had transformed an enemy into something new, how they had rewritten the rules of existence. But that was humanity. Always moving forward, always changing, always impossible.